Whenever you're ready. All right, welcome to the D. Glenn Smith Spectrum, where we're here for an exciting gymnastics meet tonight between the Utah State Aggies and the Southern Utah Thunderbirds. Here we have Southern Utah coming out onto the floor, and we'll announce their lineup shortly.
A senior from Fallon, California.
First up, a senior from Fallon, California, Stacy Webb. Senior from Mesa, Arizona, Tylee Bizzuto. Freshman from Orem, Utah, Megan McBride. A senior from Snellville, Georgia, Memory Shettles. Freshman from Temecula, California, Madison Howlett. Freshman from Orem, Utah, Autumn Jorgensen. Freshman from Orem, Utah, Madison McBride. Senior from North Salt Lake, Utah, Sydney Townsend. Junior from Coon Rapids, Minnesota, Amber Helmetez. Junior from Murrieta, California, Karen Gonzalez. Senior from Aliso Viejo, California, Kirsten Yee. Senior from San Marcos, California, Virginia Brownsell. A freshman from Vancouver, Washington, Emily Wilson. Sophomore out of Gilbert, Arizona, Cameron Bayer. A senior from Idaho Falls, Idaho, Madison Blake Howard. Senior from Corona, California, Danielle Ramirez. And a freshman from Gilbert, Arizona, Becky Rosa. Southern Utah is coached by Scotty Bauman, with assistant coaches Jeff Richards and Jamie Wysong. First up, sophomore out of San Antonio, Texas, Emily Briones. Freshman, Wisconsin, Kiara Miller. Freshman from Long Beach, California, Ellie Gullison. Freshman from Young America, Minnesota, Jessie Rondo. Sophomore out of Rexburg, Idaho, Madison Ward. Junior from Kenosha, Wisconsin, Melanie Oster. A senior from Wheaton, Illinois, Haley Sanzati. Senior from Kearney, Missouri, Bailey McIntyre. Freshman from Garland, Texas, Michaela Bullitt. Freshman from Allentown, Pennsylvania, Jasmine Estrella. Freshman from Bountiful, Utah, Brittany Jepson. Senior from Norman, Oklahoma, Katie Brown. Freshman from Decula, Georgia, Logan Nugent. senior from Fort Collins, Colorado, Carrie Peel. And a junior from Las Vegas, Nevada, Miranda Hone. Utah State is coached by Natalie Walsh with assistants Andy Delinsky-Webb and Christopher Pogantes. All right, we're set to begin here. Tonight we've got an exciting matchup, top 25 matchup between the 23rd ranked Utah State Aggies and the number 21 ranked Southern Utah Thunderbirds. I'm Jaden Johnson. I'm joined here by former gymnast Courtney McGill, and we're going to be here with the action tonight. Courtney, what are you expecting to see from both these teams?
I'm expecting to see a close matchup. Like we said, that they're 21 and 23. They're super close in the rankings. They've each have proven that they can hit those 196s, and the score that every team is looking for is that 196, 197. And so I think we're going to have a good meet tonight. Both of them are kind of coming off of kind of a bit of a hard meet. But I think being here and being so close and having a Mountain Rim Gymnastics partner is going to be good for both of these teams.
Absolutely. Utah State had a little bit of a downfall last week against San Jose State. They're looking to bounce back, and Southern Utah coming in off of a school record, the first time they've ever hit 197 in a meet. And so, you know, both teams looking to prove something tonight, and I'm excited to be here for it. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with the first rotation. Welcome back to the campus of Utah State University, where we're here at the D. Glenn Smith Spectrum, getting ready for a top 25 matchup between the Utah State Aggies and the Southern Utah Thunderbirds. You know, not only is this a top 25 matchup, it's also an in-state rivalry and an interconference rivalry, so a lot at stake tonight. Each team looking to finish out the season strong before getting ready for the conference championship, and I feel like there's going to be really good energy here tonight.
Absolutely. Both of these teams have met up before at Southern Utah, and that is when Utah State recorded a season-high road score. So Utah State has definitely proven that they can beat the Thunderbirds, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens tonight between them.
Absolutely. So, as we mentioned, Southern Utah coming off of a all-time school high score of 197.025 last week against North Carolina State. The first time they've ever hit a 197 in school history, so you know that they're coming in here fired up, ready to repeat that result, hoping to do the same. Utah State coming in after a long, brutal road trip. They've been out on the road for about 3 weeks now, going against some of the top teams in the country. They faced off against UCLA, faced off against Boise State, Nebraska, California. Very tough road stretch, and you know, I'm sure that they're thrilled to be back here in their home building this week, and then going to be back again next week for the conference championship as well.
Absolutely, and all those teams that they've been competing against these past few weeks have been in the top 20, top 15, and so it's definitely nice for them to come back and have that a little bit of familiarity in there and be able to have those crowds of the Utah State Aggies supporting them behind their backs. Absolutely, and
after a few really good meets, hanging close with those top teams, Utah State went to San Jose State just last week. They had a pretty rough outing, 194.025, but like I said, they're hoping to bounce back. Looks like the teams are getting ready to begin here in a few seconds. We'll go through the orders. Utah State's going to begin on a vault with Jasmine Estrella, followed by Katie Brown, Madison Ward, Ellie Gullison, Miranda Hone, and Bailey McIntyre. While Southern Utah is going to start on the uneven parallel bars, they'll start with Amber Heltemez, Sydney Townsend, Madison McBride, Memory Shuttles, Kirsten Yee, and Tylee Bizzuto. There goes Jasmine.
Jasmine had a great vault. She did your Chinko full. That was a pretty big hop backwards, so she will get deducted for that. But it was very nice and tight and had great tight legs.
Absolutely. Now up on the uneven parallel bars for Southern Utah, Amber Heltemez.
Amber recorded a season high for her with a 9.875 last week. Definitely hoping to repeat that again for her. Very nice release move there. Seemed a little bit close to the bar, but she was able to catch it. Very nice shoot over straight to that handstand. Now we are looking for that totally vertical handstand. Dismount to a very nice stick. Good start for Utah State, or SUU on bars.
Absolutely, I'm sure they're thrilled with that to start off. Coming up on vault for the Aggies will be Katie Brown. Katie Brown is senior. She's done very well this year on the vault and hoping to continue that success. Now last week she did only have a 9.2, which was uncharacteristically low for Katie. And a senior like this, I'm sure that she has the mentality to be able to bounce back.
Absolutely. Katie's a very strong mental gymnast. She'll be able to bounce back from this and hopefully be able to get those scores that we're used to seeing from Katie, those high scores. Right now we're just waiting for judges. Sometimes they may have a question about the last scoring. Oh, and there's that green flag for Katie to go. Very nice Yurchenko full half. Very well done. She should be very proud of that. It's definitely going to give her a way bigger score than 9.2.
Next up on the bars for Southern Utah will be Sydney Townsend. Now Sydney is coming off of a 9.85 last week against North Carolina State. The entire team did very well on bars in that meet. Really well in everywhere, but Southern Utah is a very good team on the bars.
Absolutely. They have a really strong bar team. Something that Utah State has as well, but definitely it's nice to have good teams on every event. It was a little bit not close to what we're looking for our handstand, but that was a very nice release move there. That will also be a deduction. So you want to be at least 10 degrees within that handstand for it to count. So that's a very nice dismount. Well, just a few little things to clean up here and there before the championships.
Next on the vault for the Aggies is going to be Madison Ward. The first score on vault for the Aggies was Jasmine Estrella with a 9.7.
Madison Ward has a very long stride in her run, definitely a different type of run, but it works for her, and that was a terrific vault. Slight hop at the end, but wonderful job. Utah State is really killing it on vault tonight.
Maddie, just a phenomenal gymnast. It's always fun to watch her compete. Now up for Southern Utah on the bars is going to be Madison McBride. Now Maddie McBride coming off of a 9.875, so another great score. And Courtney, just talk a little bit about how important it is for each team to start out strong. Utah State starting on the vault, where they probably prefer to start, and Southern Utah on the bars, especially on the road.
Absolutely. It's definitely, once you start strong, it kind of helps to keep that ball rolling and to stay strong. You know, when you have a fall at the beginning, it puts kind of a little bit more pressure on the gymnast and not to fall. So having that strong start, they know that they can just go out and do what they've been doing in practice and hopefully be able to stick those routines that they've been working hard on.
The first bar score for the Thunderbirds was Amber Heltemes with a 9.8.
Now that was a reverse grip giant into a release move. Definitely one of the harder tricks. As you can see, her hands are the opposite way than they normally are. Very difficult, but very interesting move that will give her a few extra bonus points. That was a very good handstand, totally vertical. That was a great double layout. It looks like she took off a little bit early, but she's able to recover it. Definitely a very well-seasoned gymnast.
Coming up on the vault for the Aggies is Ellie Gullison. Ellie is just a freshman, but she's had a very good freshman year.
Ellie is definitely a powerhouse and a great vaulter. Very nice. A little bit pikey on the way down, but Utah State is really coming back and really showing that they can be a strong vault team.
Absolutely. Coming up on the bars for the Thunderbirds is going to be Memory Shettles. Now, looks like she's just getting ready. But, you know, just 3 gymnasts in, so Southern Utah has to be feeling pretty good about their performance so far on the bars. Another score for the Thunderbirds is Sydney Townsend with a 9.7. Utah State on the vault, Katie Brown recorded a 9.8, and Madison Ward with a 9.725.
Definitely some big scores that we're seeing from both teams. They're staying pretty even with each other, so it's going to be close to see who's going to win this round, who's going to win the first rotation.
Now, last week, in their meet, Southern Utah recorded a 49.3 on the bars, which tied a school record. So I'm sure that some of these early performances are coming as a result, as the energy that they were able to build from that. You know, setting a school record or tying a school record, that's such an enormous deal, especially for a storied program like Southern Utah. And these girls have to feel pretty proud about what they did.
Absolutely. They've had some great off-road seasons, especially with their highest road score. Oh, that is going to count as a fall, unfortunately. It looked like she was back a little bit too far. A fall is worth 5/10 deduction. And as long as you get back up on that bar within 30 seconds, you can just keep going.
And the good news for Memory is that she still has just two more gymnasts left, and as long as each of them can make it through without any major issues, that will be able to be dropped.
Absolutely.
However, it does, that does put a little bit more pressure on the final two gymnasts.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure SUU has shown that they're a good bar team so far, and I think they'll be okay.
Coming up on the vault for the Aggies is Miranda Hone.
That was a wonderful vault by Miranda. She did have that step out. Every step is about 3 to 1/10. So just to be depending on what the judges believe how big that step was. But definitely an overall pretty well done by Miranda.
Miranda's been incredibly consistent on the vault this season. Consistent good scores for her. Coming up on the bars for Southern Utah will be Kirsten Yee.
Kristen did receive a 9.875. That's her season high. And that was recorded last week at NC State. Huge score.
Absolutely. So many powerhouse gymnasts on each of these teams. And, as we were going through the march in and reading their lineups, it's really remarkable how many freshmen are on each of these teams. Very, very young teams. And you have to think that the future of each of these teams and of the conference is so bright.
Absolutely. It's going to be great to see where these two teams end up in the next few years. Very nice release, straight down to the low bar. Very difficult, but very well done. She has gorgeous lines, very tight legs. You can tell that she's really trying to show off and not give away any of those tenths. Slight step, but very well done. Very good to come back off of that fall.
Previous scores for Southern Utah on the bars: Madison McBride with a 9.75 and Memory Shuttles with a 9.025 after that fall. That was Bailey McIntyre on the vault.
Very well done. She's only been in the vault lineup pretty recently, as she's doing all around now. It was very well done by Bailey.
On the vault for the Aggies, Ellie Gullison recorded a 9.775, while Miranda Hone recorded a 9.750. The final gymnast of this rotation is going to be Tylee Bizzuto on the bars. Now, Tylee, one of just two all-arounders competing tonight. She's the only one for Southern Utah, and then Bailey McIntyre will compete all-around for the Aggies.
Bizzuto is also new to the bar lineup. She hasn't competed bars at all this season. It looks like SUU is trying to push for that all-around gymnast. So it'll be interesting to see what she has done and what she's proven to her coaches about how she can perform on bars tonight.
Interesting to see her get her first competition on bars this late in the season, but maybe right now is a good time to try things out and see what you want to do in the championship weeks.
Absolutely, and she's looking like she can totally prove to be in that anchor spot. The hand time was a little bit short, but overall this has been a really clean routine. Very nice stick. Way to go with Bizzuto's routine. That's a great anchor spot for SUU.
Now we're going to have an exhibition on the vault from Utah State, Michaela Bullitt.
Very nice nice Yurchenko half. That was gorgeous. It looked like it was a stick. Very well done. Hopefully that will prove to her coaches that she is able to take on vault and be able to be in that spot.
And Michaela, she's exhibitioned on the vault for the last 5 competitions for the Aggies. So that kind of tells you that she's right there on the edge, and she's done well in practices, and maybe they're hoping to get her a next step further so that she can compete.
Absolutely, and she is just a freshman, so she has a long ways to go in this program, and it definitely is good to prove to her coaches that she's already capable of doing these skills.
Absolutely. Now on the bars for Southern Utah is going to be Madison Howlett, also performing an exhibition. An exhibition, just such a great way for these girls to be able to perform in front of a crowd and be able to get a little bit of extra practice that goes beyond the practice gym.
Absolutely. And these girls really try to perform like their scores do count to keep that added pressure up.
And Madison hasn't performed in a competition on the bars. So this is a great way for her to get that extra experience as well.
Absolutely.
As she performs, we'll read off the final scores from this round. Bailey McIntyre received a 9.725 on the vault for the Aggies, while Tylee Bizzuto a 9.875 on the bars for Southern Utah, and Kirsten Yee with a 9.85. So 2 very, very strong scores, 9.85 and a 9.9 for Southern Utah. The final score from the round, Utah State received a 48.775 on the vault, while Southern Utah on the bars a 48.975. So we've got a close one here. You know, barely any separation between these two teams after one rotation, and I think that we might be in for a close competition throughout the entire thing.
Absolutely. Both teams did have a little handstand wobbles and a few steps that could have brought their score up, but overall it is super close, and I expect to see that for the rest of the meet.
We are going to take a break, and we'll come back with the second rotation where Utah State will be on the bars and Southern Utah on the vault here in just a moment. And welcome back to Utah State. We've got an exciting one here. Utah State closely behind Southern Utah. USU, after one rotation on the vault, scored a 48.775, while Southern Utah on the bars a 48.975. So as we expected, high level of competition, 2 teams bringing it with their best shot. And I think we're in for 3 more very solid rotations from each of these teams.
Absolutely. They're only 2 tenths apart. That's like 2 pointed toes, 2 flexed feet that are not counted. So it is very close. Both teams could make a comeback, and it's going to be fascinating to see what happens.
Absolutely.
In this rotation.
It was kind of cool to see during the break here. We had a whole handful of USU alum, former gymnasts, former coaches, all here in the building to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Utah State Gymnastics. And what a history it's been. Really cool to see all of those gymnasts be able to come back here to their roots, and it shows that they're proud of the program and proud of where they came from.
Absolutely. It's really cool to see alumni and where they've been, and you know, it is like a giant history book. You know, every team has created this long history of gymnastics, and with Utah State being 40 years, definitely a huge milestone, and it's great to see where it's ended up now.
Looking through the lineup, first on the vault for Southern Utah is going to be Megan McBride, followed by Tylee Bizzuto, Madison Blake Howard, Virginia Brownsnell, Stacy Webb, and Madison McBride. Looks like Megan McBride just getting ready to begin.
Megan McBride did receive her season high last meet at 9.85. Very well done. That was Yurchenko full. Very nice stick. Great way to start off. Team is definitely happy with that. They should be.
She brought all kinds of energy into the building with that one. Starting off for the Aggies on the bars will be Madison Ward.
Very nice release. Straight down to the low bar. I'll give her a few extra bonus points because that was so connected. She has great fluidity in her bar routine, and that's something that the judges are definitely looking for.
Now, Maddie last week with a 9.725, but it looks like depending on how the judges see it. It looks like she may be able to improve on that this week. Very solid routine there from Maddie.
Absolutely, that was a fantastic routine.
Coming up for the Thunderbirds on the bars, on the vault will be Tylee Bizzuto.
Tylee also did receive her season high last meet with a 9.9. Huge score coming from her. She's definitely hoping to repeat that to give her team a bigger vault score.
And she's coming off of a 9.875 just the previous rotation on the bars, so great start to her night.
Very nice Yurchenko full. Definitely should be happy with that. Keep going with this great start for SUU.
Both teams is looking good. Been able to avoid any major mistakes so far, except for, of course, one fall on the bars for Southern Utah, but very clean meet. Bailey McIntyre is now on the bars for the Aggies.
Now, Bailey has been competing on bars for all 4 years of her gymnastics career, so she's definitely not a newbie to bars. Very nice dismount to a stick. Utah State has had some great landings tonight, great tight handstands. Everything's been so good for them tonight.
Coming up on the vault for Southern Utah, Madison Blake Howard.
Madison is coming off of also a season high of 9.8. Huge scores. And it looks like she did run off, so her steps must have just bent off a little bit or something. It is okay for them to run off. They will be able to try again as long as they didn't touch any of those mats. So you see those brown mats there in the springboard. So because she didn't touch any of those mats, she will be able to start over.
And a great job by her recognizing that.
Absolutely.
Being able to reset and get another shot at it.
Absolutely. If something doesn't feel right, you want to make sure that your safety is first. And so here she goes again, making those few adjustments so that she'll be able to complete this vault. So she did touch that mat, so it's going to be up to the judges.
And looks like on the bars we have for the Aggies, Melanie Oster going right now.
This has been a very clean bar routine. Very nice and tight. Wow, wonderful job. That was a great stick, great routine, hit all those handstands, wonderful.
So I guess we'll find out and see what happened with that vault routine, but looks like it may just...
So it looks like because she stepped on that mat that she won't be able to redo her vault. Oh, there she goes again, so they must have let her redo it. Very nice Yurchenko full, that was very high. Kind of a bummer, hopefully that didn't shake her up too much for the rest of the meet.
And I'm sure that's got to be difficult after a couple of miscues there to be able to bounce back and still be able to nail that.
Absolutely, probably a little bit stressful for her coaches and her team too. They looked a little bit stressed when something was happening there, but they were able to recover. Definitely a seasoned team, they know what they're doing. They're trying to stay calm, and so far it's being great for them.
Now on the bars for Utah State will be Brittany Jepson. And it looks like she's taking just a moment. This could be a result of getting out of order and mixing things up a little bit, but Brittany Jepson, a freshman, the only Utah native on the team, interestingly enough. While Southern Utah has quite a few Utah natives and Western U.S. gymnasts, Utah State's kind of from all over, and we have Utah's own Brittany Jepson going here.
Kind of fun to compete in your own home state. That was a huge release move, definitely a lot of amplitude. Judges are looking for a nice height on that, and form, which includes straight legs and those pointed toes. Very nice routine so far. Here comes the dismount. Double leg to another stick. This has been a great rotation for the Aggies. Definitely going to bring out some high scores.
Very solid. Coming up on the vault for Southern Utah will be Virginia Brownsell.
Here we had a front handspring entrance vault. She did have a few steps back there. And those steps are 1 to 3/10 depending on the length of those. But definitely more of a unique vault. You don't really see that often, so it's nice to see a little change up in their vaults.
Going to rattle off a few scores here as we're getting them in. Megan McBride for Southern Utah, a 9.825. Tylee Bizzuto, a 9.8. And Madison Blake Howard with a 9.675. For the Aggies on the bars, Madison Ward with a 9.875. Melanie Oster with a 9.825. And, I'm sorry, Bailey McIntyre with a 9.825. And Melanie Oster with a 9.875.
Huge, huge scores. Aggies definitely should be pleased with what's happening tonight.
Gotta love it. And coming up now for the Aggies is Carrie Peel.
It was a gorgeous handstand all the way up, very nice and tight.
Now Carrie Peel, one of just 4 seniors on this Utah State team. They would typically celebrate their senior night tonight, but because of spring break, they decided to do it a couple of weeks ago.
Absolutely. Very nice. She had that slight hop, but I didn't see any other deductions in there. Her handstands are nice and tight, and it was very connected. She had good amplitude. Very well done, Carrie.
Now on the vault for Southern Utah will be Stacy Webb. Stacy Webb last week had a 9.850 on the vault.
Definitely a great score, but there's still room for improvement there. It's going to be interesting to see what she does tonight. Kadyurchenko full in a stick. Both of these teams have really proven that they are able to hold on to those sticks and have those tight forms. Very, very well done from both teams on this rotation.
And to finish out the rotation for Utah State on the bars will be Jasmine Estrella. Another score on the bars earlier was Brittany Jepson with a 9.875. So just continuing a very, very good rotation on the bars for the Aggies. And Jasmine, I'm sure, is hoping to cap that off with another solid performance.
Absolutely. Jasmine did receive a career high score of a 9.85 last week. Handstand was a little bit short. A little bit kind of rattled her there, but she was able to recover. Very well seasoned gymnast, knows how to fix those tiny mistakes and keep calm.
Now Jasmine is a freshman who started off the year just a little shaky, but since then has just been phenomenal for the Aggies.
Absolutely. She's given huge scores for the Aggies this year.
And closing out the rotation on the vault for Southern Utah will be Madison McBride. Maddie McBride last week a 9.75, and she's been very consistent for them.
Another Yurchenko full, slight step back, but very well done.
Now we are going to have an exhibition on the bars for Utah State from Miranda Hone. It looks like she's just getting ready to go right now, but you know, we've said it a few times, but Utah State has to feel really solid about getting such a good start and doing so well on the bars this rotation.
Absolutely. They've had a wonderful bar rotation so far, with almost all their scores at 9.8s or above, which is huge. Definitely what you want to expect from your team, and scores are definitely what you wanted. A little bit short on that handstand, but very nice done release move. A little bit of a harder release move.
Miranda is a junior, and she started out the first 7 or 8 competitions competing on the bars for Utah State. She did a couple of exhibitions after that, and I'm sure she's just trying to solidify her spot back in the lineup.
Absolutely.
But looks like a great performance there,
Well done.
and that might be what it takes.
I think she definitely proved to her coaches right there that she's able to handle it and handle that pressure.
And we talked about Utah State on the bars there, but Southern Utah on the vault, you know, very solid rotation from them as well. As we're waiting for a couple final individual scores, and then we'll get to the rotational scores. But what do you think about what Southern Utah did on the vault there?
Absolutely. Both teams had huge scores coming out and really had good vaults coming out and good bar routines. I feel like Utah State should be extremely proud of what they showed the judges tonight. on bars. They hit almost every routine with those tight handstands that the judges are really looking for. On vault, they did have a few steps on their landings. Definitely just something that they can go back into the gym and work on before the gymnastics championships that are going to be here next Saturday.
So the final couple scores for each gymnast, or for each team: Stacy Webb with a 9.85, and Madison McBride with a 9.825 for Southern Utah, while on the bars for Utah State, Carrie Pill with a 9.825 and Jasmine Estrella a 9.550. So on the rotation, Utah State wound up with a 49.275, Southern Utah with a 48.975. So the gap has been closed, and Utah State sees himself with just a little bit of a lead halfway through here. Total score 98.05 for the Aggies and a 97.95 for Southern Utah.
Absolutely. So Utah State was able to gain 3/10 on SUU. Huge scoring lead on them. Now that they're a 10th ahead, still that is only a 10th, and so there is room for SU to take it back. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in these next rotations and to see if Utah State can keep that lead and pull it through.
Absolutely. We're going to come back with the third rotation here in just a moment, where Southern Utah will be on the floor and Utah State on the beam. We're going to take a quick break, though, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to the D. Glenn Smith Spectrum, where Utah State narrowly holds a lead over Southern Utah, a score at 98.05 to 97.95. So, as we expected, a close competition between two teams that are very familiar with each other. Now, this rotation, I think, is going to be the defining rotation for each of these teams. Southern Utah, a very, very, very good floor team. Last week, they had 3 9.9s or higher. The last time they went against Utah State, they absolutely were unbelievable. And in that competition against Utah State, they recorded a 9.95, a 9.9, a 9.925. So, Southern Utah, a good floor team, and Utah State kind of struggled on the beam last week.
Absolutely. Even though Utah State did struggle on the beam last week and had to count those two falls, so there were 3 falls total, I still think Utah State is going to use that fire and build it up and show that they're able to do well on beam.
And Utah State, they haven't been bad on beam this season, but last week they just really struggled against San Jose. As you said, 3 falls. They had to count 2 of them. And, if they come out and they're able to put up a decent score, and they might be able to hold on to this lead that they have right now. So starting for Utah State on the beam is going to be Katie Brown, followed by Bailey McIntyre, Ellie Gullison, Haley Sanzotti, Carrie Peel, and Miranda Home. Here's Katie Brown.
Now, Katie Brown was one of those that fell last week, so she's hoping to not fall again this meet. Very nice full turn. Sometimes that can be the most difficult for a gymnast. Not one of those where you have to have a lot of adrenaline. You really have to calm yourself down for that. Here comes her series. Flick lay, gorgeous flick lay. She's looking very solid up on that beam today. Not wiggling at all. Very well done. Very nice leap series. The judges really want to see that connected, and they really want to see a lot of fluidity throughout the whole beam routine. So that was a fall. Very interesting way to fall. Kind of laughing at herself from it. It's a bummer that she had to fall again this meet.
She almost made it look like she meant to do it.
Absolutely.
Way to play it off. But, bouncing back and being able to finish out strong, because you never know. This may end up having to count anyway, so it's important for her to finish out strong, even after a tough fall like that.
And Katie Brown is a senior. She knows how to bounce back. Very nice dismount. If that fall wouldn't have happened, that would have been very good. But definitely just one of those things you have to shake off and just keep going for the next week.
Now on the floor for Southern Utah, they're going to start out with Karen Gonzalez.
Again, we're looking at the SUU team being such a strong team on floor.
It's like Karen about to begin her routine. And last week, Karen recorded a 9.8 against North Carolina State. She's been another very consistent gymnast for Southern Utah. Last time against Utah State, she had a 9.9. And looks like we might have a little technical issue, but
definitely, she's had some huge scores for SUU. Definitely a good spot to put her in the opener so that you know that she's a consistent gymnast and willing to put up those huge scores. Looks like we did have a musical problem, but it looks like they fixed it and we're ready to go. A little bit of a jungle out there. Definitely some interesting music coming out. Very well done though. This is their first tumbling pass.
As we've mentioned, Southern Utah just such a good floor team. You know, if they're able to build a nice little lead here going into the final rotation, they'd be thrilled about that. So if they can repeat what they did last time against Utah State or last week, I'm sure they'll be excited.
Absolutely. So far, so good. Definitely having fun out there. Definitely see the team out there having fun with her as well. Floor is really one of those where you can show off your personality, and it looks like she's doing just that. This is her second tumbling pass.
Very upbeat.
Front lay to a front full, very nice. They are required to do a front element, so some front tumbling. Definitely a high energy routine. Very fun to watch as well.
It's good to have a high energy routine like this to start out the rotation. You can see all the Southern Utah gymnasts over on the sideline getting into it.
Absolutely. And that was a 4.5 for Rudy. Very well done. Utah State or SUU should be so happy with that score that they will be receiving from that. I'm sure it's going to be a huge score.
Now up on the beam for Utah State will be Bailey McIntyre. Now the score for Katie Brown on the previous go was a 9.1 after that tough fall, but Bailey hoping, she's a very strong beam gymnast and hoping to bring us back.
Absolutely. I love Bailey's mount there. You saw her do a front handspring onto the beam. A little bit different. A lot of gymnasts just like to get up there easily and just get started. Here comes her series. She has a 3-part series, so you'll see a flick, flick, lay. Oh, and she wasn't able to hold on to it. That was so close. You could see that she was really trying to save it, which is what coaches are looking for. Even if you have a fall, you want to see that you're able to fight for it. But that means that Utah State will have to count a fall, unfortunately. There's another wobble there. Seems to be a little bit shaky tonight. Definitely not characteristic for Bailey McIntyre, but hopefully she'll be able to bring this back and be able to perform on floor and be consistent for floor. Very nice dismount though, nice stick. Way to finish strong.
Well, gymnastics is such a mental sport, and you know, seeing a couple of falls early on, this is going to be really tough for the team to bounce back, but we'll see how they do. Now on the floor for Southern Utah is Virginia Brownsell.
It looks like we're having another musical difficulty. Seems like it was just the wrong girl's music, but no worries.
Nothing that can't be fixed.
Absolutely. Totally ready to perform again. And perform, SUU does. They really have high energy routines and show off what they got and really have fun with it. Here comes our first tumbling pass. Starting off with our first tumbling pass with that Rudy again, which is a 4.5. Looks like she's having really a lot of fun out there. Another front tumbling pass with a full lay. Very nice. Team's really excited about that.
Another high energy routine, just like the first. I think that kind of matches the personality of this Southern Utah team.
And it looks like they do have a little part where they can scream SUU during her routine. Definitely fun, especially when you're at your home crowd for SUU in Cedar City. I'm sure that they get a lot of fans cheering that SUU for them.
Well, you know, there are quite a few Southern Utah fans here in the house that made that trek up from Cedar City. And it's kind of cool to see some Disney fans here.
There was her back pass, round back handspring double pike. Very well done, very good routine, very happy with that, and she should be.
Next up on the beam for Utah State is going to be Ellie Gullison. Now, Ellie, one of just a few Aggies that did really well on the beam last week, a 9.825.
Ellie has always proven that she's been really good on beam. She has a very difficult series coming up. She'll do a lay, so that's 2 flips without using her hands. Very difficult, but she definitely is a power gymnast, so she's able to perform that. Hopefully she can be solid after those 2 falls from Utah State and bring back a huge score that they'll be able to count.
And even as a freshman, she just brings such a confidence and really a leadership to the table that Utah State needs here on the beam.
Absolutely. There's that series, very strong, very nice and tight and solid. She's not letting any falls happen tonight. And just as a freshman, like we were saying, she still has a long time to go within the Utah State program, and it's going to be very interesting to see where she ends up and where she's going. Very strong, confident routine. Definitely what Utah State needs right now. Front full off. Very nice. Very well done. Utah State definitely will like that.
Great bounce back after those first couple. Coming up on the floor for Southern Utah is Tylee Bizzuto. Tylee's continuing an all-around night where she got a 9.875 on the bars and a 9.8 on the vault. And last week, Tylee was one of 3 Southern Utah gymnasts with a 9.9. Just enormous score. So hoping to continue that success.
Absolutely, and that was her season high. Huge scores coming out from SUU throughout the whole season for them. Very nice front pass. And like we said, she was one of the 3 who got 9 9s last week. Those are huge, huge scores. And what gave them such a high score last week against NC State. Definitely hoping to try to repeat that. This is a little bit of a calmer routine, but definitely a high-paced routine. You can see it definitely appeals to her personality.
That's so important for the music to be able to match the routine and the personality of the gymnast that's doing it.
Absolutely. If you don't love it, then it's kind of hard to perform it. And all these girls are just loving it out there. It looks like they're just having fun. Here she goes with her 3rd tumbling pass. With a double pike, very nice. They are allowed to have that mat out there as long as the lines are on it to know where out of bounds is. Very well done. SUU is really doing great on floor.
Coming up for Utah State on the beam will be Haley Sanzati. A couple of scores as she gets ready to go. Bailey McIntyre on the beam with an 8.95 after that fall, as we saw. On the floor for Southern Utah, Karen Gonzalez with a 9.775 and Virginia Brownsell with a 9.850.
Now, Haley Zanzati did receive a 9.2 last week on beam, so she was one of those that had some major wobbles and falls. So she's definitely not hoping to repeat that again and hoping to be able to give a strong score for that team because they will have to count 1 fall since 2 of them fell.
I want to talk about a tough mental test. To come off of last week where she took a fall and seeing the first 2 gymnasts for Utah State take a fall, knowing that her score is going to most likely count, and it's that much more important. But Haley's a senior. She's been doing this for a long time and a very solid gymnast for the Aggies.
Absolutely, and this is Haley's last time that she'll be competing on beam in a dual meet. Kind of emotional, but at the same time, she knows she has a job to get done, and she's definitely a strong mental gymnast, and I know that she'll be able to get up there and hopefully perform a really good routine and bring out a good score for the Aggies.
Well, and as I stated, this isn't the senior night for Utah State, but for most teams it would be. Because of the spring break, they bumped it back a little bit. And, of course, Utah State does host the championship next week. But for many girls, this may feel like a senior night.
Absolutely. She just did her series there, flick lay. Had a slight wobble, but that's not a fall, so that's great for her. Very nice jump series. They are required to have a jump series where they show 2 jumps in consecutive order and go down to the beam. Very nice. She's definitely one of the more sassier gymnasts, likes to show off and
brings a good attitude that the team needs.
absolutely. Definitely a strong routine so far. Very nice. That was a bland landing on that second jump. You could see that her head was back. That is very difficult because you don't see where you're landing, obviously, but it was very well done by Haley Zanzadi. Gainer full dismount. Very nice. Huge comeback for the Aggies right then. Very well done by senior.
Two good routines after a rough start. Now up for Southern Utah on the floor is Stacy Webb. Stacy Webb, she did have a 9.75 last week. Not the greatest score that she's had this season, but you know, she's no stranger to seeing 9.9s and upper 9.8s.
Stacy is definitely a fierce gymnast. If you look at that face, she's determined. Very nice double pike. That has huge amplitude. The judges are looking for the height on that. Very well done.
Score coming in for Tylee Bizzuto for Southern Utah on the floor, 9.825.
So she goes for her second tumbling pass. Front handspring, front pull, front pike. Very nice. Definitely another performer that we see from SUU. Just another reason why SUU has an amazing floor team and is proven week after week how great they are on floor. Huge jumps there in leap series. Again, looking for that amplitude. Coming up for our third and last tumbling pass. Another front tumbling pass, very well done. Slight step back there, but she should be very proud of that. Cool ending there as well.
You can see the team is amped up about that. Now up for Utah State will be Carrie Peel. Carrie is a senior. In the very first meet of the season, she did take a fall on the beam, but she's been very consistent for the Aggies since then, always bringing in good scores.
Absolutely. Carrie's had a wonderful season. She's had wonderful seasons on bars and on beam, and hopefully to just continue that through the rest of her senior year. Comes her series. Flick lay, very solid, no wobbles there. She's not giving away any tenths on this routine, which is exactly what the Aggies need. With their leap pass with a switch leap. Slight wobble there with that leg stick out. She's able to recover it. She's really trying to stay calm through this routine and focus and get her job done. And so far, this is what the Aggies need. They just need a solid routine. Here we go with their dismount. Slight hop, but wonderful routine. Aggies are definitely bringing it back after those two falls at the beginning.
Absolutely. They're going to have one more performance and hope to finish out strong. But meanwhile, on the floor for Southern Utah will be Autumn Jorgensen. Autumn, another gymnast that had a 9.9 last week on the floor. Just a phenomenal gymnast for Southern Utah.
Here's your first tumbling pass. With the round up back handspring double pike. Did have a step out of that, but that was huge amplitude. She has a lot of power. Definitely a powerhouse gymnast. Very well done.
How fun is this team to watch on the floor? Just the confidence that they perform with and the difference in the routines that they have. It's a blast to watch them.
Absolutely. You can tell that they're all having fun out there. You can tell the team has got her back and is always behind her. You know, these girls spend a lot of time in the gym together. And so it's fun to see them all doing their routines. You can tell their team bond is really strong. And that definitely impacts your performance as a team. Very nice leap series. They are required to have that leap series. And you want to see a full 180-degree split. Just trying to keep that energy up for this last tumbling pass. Nice double tuck. SUU has been solid this whole meet on bars, and it's been, or not on bars, on floor, excuse me, but it's been really great for them, and it's going to bring out some good scores for them.
Coming up on the beam to finish out the rotation for Utah State is Miranda Hone. Now, a couple of scores that I haven't read off yet. Ellie Gullison with a 9.825 on the beam, and Haley Sanzati a 9.675. So Utah State is starting to turn it around on the beam and hoping to finish out strong here with Miranda.
Now, Miranda has been in exhibition the past 3 meets, so she must have proven in the gym and through all those exhibitions that she's able to have that anchor spot. That was a very wonderful front toss. No wiggles there.
This is just her 3rd time competing on the beam this season. So I'm sure she's got the jitters, but she looks like she's handling it very well.
Definitely going to be good to see her up on the beam lineup, hopefully in the next few routines. Here's her series. Flick late. Oh, and there was another fall. So that means they will have to count 2 falls, unfortunately, for the Aggies. And we'll see a repeat of what happened last week.
2nd straight week, and it's hard to watch because, you know, this season they have done pretty well on the beam, but I don't know if it's something mental or what's going on, but they're hoping, I'm sure that they'll be working on that plenty this week before the championship next week.
Absolutely. Something that they can definitely just go back and improve on. She definitely has a fun dismount there. A very solid end to that routine, but definitely something that they need to go back into the gym and work on.
Closing out the rotation on the floor for Southern Utah will be Madison Blake Howard. Now, the previous 2 scores on the floor for Southern Utah were a 9.825 from Stacy Webb and a 9.85 from Autumn Jorgensen. So maybe not quite the enormous high scores that we saw last week from the Thunderbirds, but still a very good night for them.
Absolutely. Here comes the first tumbling pass with a double full with a front tuck after. Huge pass, huge difficulty in that pass as well. Another very fun routine to watch. There you see that leap pass. It looks like it was a little bit under that 180-degree split, but that's only at max like 1/10 off, so nothing to be worried about. Here she goes for another tumbling pass. Front tumbling pass in the front 1.5 for Rudy. Very well done. I'm very happy with that. It was very solid. Great way to end it out for them.
Now we're going to have an exhibition on the beam from the Aggies. It'll be Melanie Oster. The final couple of scores on the beam for Utah State, a 9.725 from Carrie Peel and a 9.2 from Miranda Hone after that fall. So for the Aggies, a 2nd straight competition with 3 falls. How do they get past that mental block and be able to bounce back coming into the most important competitions of the season?
Absolutely. Like we just said, it is a mental block. And those are sometimes one of the hardest things to get over through in gymnastics is those mental blocks. But I believe that the Aggies can do it. They really have had a good beam season until these past few meets, and hopefully they'll be able to go back into the gym, refocus, and work on their mental strength throughout the rest of the meet.
So as Miranda's going here, this is her 4th straight competition where she's done an exhibition, and she's done fairly well in the last 3, so we may see her after a couple of tough weeks on beam, we may see her move into the rotation.
Absolutely. If she can show her coaches and her teammates that she is solid, then I think she could have a lineup pretty soon here, and that was a very well done routine. Slight step there, but overall no major wobbles or falls.
I'm sure that the team is wishing that they could count that right about now.
Absolutely.
So the final scores from this round in this rotation. Utah State with a 47.525 and Southern Utah a 49.25. Really kind of a brutal rotation for the Aggies, while Southern Utah just came out and performed phenomenally.
Absolutely. That is a bummer for the Aggies. Hopefully they can come back and bounce back on floor. They did lose 2 whole points from beam. But they do have a pretty strong floor team, so they might be able to bounce back. They're going to have to really show and perfection and try not to give away any tenths and be really strong.
Utah State loves performing on the floor, and I think especially here in front of the home fans, they just do very well on the floor. And you know, whether they're able to come out of this ahead, it's highly unlikely with the score the way it is, but I'm sure that they want to just finish out with the best possible score that they can and be able to gain a little bit of confidence moving in to the championship next week. So currently we sit with Southern Utah a 147.2 and Utah State 145.575. As we move into the final rotation, where Utah State is going to be on the floor and Southern Utah will take the beam. We're going to take another quick break, and we'll be back here at the Spectrum in just a moment. D. Glenn Smith Spectrum, we're here at Utah State University, where we've got a fun one between Southern Utah University and Utah State. Southern Utah currently in the lead with a score of 147.2, while the Utah State a little bit further behind, a 145.575, after a little bit of a tough round on the beam. The Aggies, though, a very strong floor team, hoping to bounce back, you know, even if not to win the meet, to be able to prove to themselves that they have the mental ability to bounce back and still finish out strong here on the floor.
Absolutely. At this point for the Aggies, it is going to be a little bit harder to bounce back with a 2-point deficit, but they really just got to show that they're a strong mental team and that they'll be able to bounce back despite what happened on beam.
You know, it becomes a little bit more of a competition against themselves than a competition against Southern Utah at this point. I think the lead nearly insurmountable, you know, unless there's some serious mistakes from Southern Utah, which no one would hope for. But Utah State still able to come out and finish out strong on the floor, which would give them plenty of momentum going into next week.
Absolutely.
So going through the lineup, Utah's starting on the beam, Southern Utah will have Autumn Jorgensen, followed by Kirsten Yee, Tylee Bizzuto, Stacy Webb, Cameron Bayer, and Sydney Townsend. Utah State, looks like they're already going, and Autumn Jorgensen has begun on the beam.
So far, that was a great series that we saw. Flick Lay hoping to come out and be a solid performance, staying on that beam, getting the mental game up and strong for SUU. Huge jumps and leaps there. It was completely 180, very well done. Very nice front tuck. She's been very solid on beam. She's not really given any wiggles throughout this routine. Definitely what you're hoping for in your first spot, to just go out and perform a good, solid routine. Comes her dismount. Double tuck off. Huge difficulty there. Did have a chest down a little bit, but huge difficulty throughout that whole routine.
Good start for the Thunderbirds. Utah State on the floor is going to begin with Haley Sanzotti. She'll be followed by Carrie Peel, Jasmine Estrella, Haley McIntyre, Ellie Gullison, and Madison Ward. Haley last week recorded a 9.775 against San Jose State.
Haley hoping to shake off that fall that she had on beam. So far, it's looking like it. Definitely coming out with that with a huge smile and being that sassy Sanzotti that we're used to seeing on floor.
You know, as you mentioned, when she was over on the beam, she has an attitude about her, and it's fun to watch the way that she carries that into her performance.
Absolutely. She carries that personality with her throughout every routine that she does. Just makes her more of a better gymnast and more identifiable.
And I think the judges like to see that as well.
Absolutely. These judges have seen so many routines already, and it's good to just see something different. They're really and they do judge on personality and artistic. They do get an artistic score, so they are looking for fluidity and performance. This is their second tumbling pass. Front handspring full, front half, with a straddle jump after it. That does get for a little bit of a bonus, and also sometimes is better for those super powerful gymnasts to land with that jump afterwards. Comes with their next tumbling pass. Back tumbling pass with a double tuck. A little bit low there. Affected the ankles, but she knows how to recover that. She knows how to whip it around. Very well done.
Now up on the beam for Utah, or for Southern Utah, will be Kirsten Yee. Kirsten is coming off of a 9.725 last week. A little bit lower than her average score, so hoping to come out strong today. The score for Autumn Jorgensen on the beam for Southern Utah was a 9.775.
Very nice front salto there. Huge split jump series that was very well connected. They do have to connect 2 jumps in a row, and you want to see perfect connection. Very nice full turn. She's looking very solid up there. She hasn't wobbled hardly at all. Very graceful gymnast as well. Definitely something nice to see on beam is just grace and fluidity.
In Southern Utah, we talked about how strong they are on floor, but their second strongest event is the beam, and so they really have an advantage finishing with those two at the end of every meet. Or I guess every dual team meet at least, being able to finish with their 2 strongest events.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice when you can get your little bit harder events over, although SU doesn't really have any bad events necessarily, but great to end on a strong note.
Now for the Aggies will be Carrie Peel. Carrie Peel, a senior, and she hasn't performed in floor every competition. She's done about half so far this season, and last week she was able to come up with a 9.775 against San Jose State.
Pretty good score, 9.775. You definitely want to get to that 10, so she does have that room for improvement. The first tumbling pass. Very huge tumbling pass, very high altitude. Definitely something that the judges are looking for is a high salto and a clean landing, which she both had. She goes with her second tumbling pass. Very well done. She is a little bit taped up there, as you can see, between that knee and between that elbow. She does have a few injuries, but she's really been recovering well throughout these injuries and has been able to perform really well for the Aggies this season. And unfortunately, this is her senior year, but I'm sure she'll do amazing things in the future.
And still a few competitions left this season to be able to show what she has.
For sure. Next tumbling pass with a full front lay. Very nice. Team is definitely happy with that, and they should be.
And now up on the beam for Southern Utah will be Tylee Bizzuto. Now Tylee Bizzuto, she's winding up her all-around performance. Just a phenomenal night for her. 9.8 on the vault, 9.875 on the bars, and a 9.825 on the floor. So hoping to cap that off with a good performance here on the beam.
Definitely huge scores for an all-around gymnast.
Now Tylee is a senior, so they're certainly going to miss her, but what she's been able to do during her career at Southern Utah has just been phenomenal.
Absolutely. Here comes her series. Flick lay, very solid. Definitely if she keeps it up the way she's going, she'll be able to get that 9.8 and be able to get all 9.8s during this meet, which would definitely be a huge feat for SUU.
Now, strong start for Southern Utah on the beam, a 9.775 for Autumn Jorgensen and a 9.875 for Kirsten Yee.
Very nice straddle jump series there. Another gainer full off the side, 2 with a stick. SUU has done so well on beam.
Now up on the floor for Utah State will be Jasmine Estrella. Jasmine is coming off of 2 straight 9.825 scores.
Huge scores for Jasmine. Definitely hoping to repeat some of those scores.
Haley Sanzauti on the floor for the Aggies recorded a 9.75.
Their first tumbling pass. Round back hamstring double pike. Very huge. Almost went out of bounds there. Was able to recover that. Jasmine Estrella is another one of those performers for Utah State. Almost everybody on floor on the Utah State team who has really good presence on floor and really stands out on floor.
You can tell that they're very well coached in this event, and just the confidence they come out with, and the performances they're able to put on week in and week out is phenomenal.
Absolutely. So it's like she did go out on that, but that only is a few tenths depending on how many steps she took. But nothing to worry about so far. Just to keep up that mental game, stay strong throughout the true team. Here with our next tumbling pass. Very well done. Had a slight hop at the end. Pretty good routine for Jasmine. Definitely there were room for a little bit of improvement, but so far so good for Utah State on floor.
Coming up for Southern Utah on the beam is going to be Stacy Webb. Stacy Webb last week recorded a 9.875 on the beam. Very good score for her, and hoping to see another one of those.
Comes her series with a flick lay. Slight wobble there, but she was able to recover it. Luckily, that wasn't a fall for them, so they won't have to count that as a fall. They'll just have to count that as a wobble. It looks like she's staying really composed up there on beam, really solid. SUU is doing really good on beam so far. I haven't seen a lot of major wobbles except for that wobble there in her routine at the beginning, but overall it's been really solid for SUU, and they should be really proud of their performance tonight.
Certainly a team that knows how to finish out strong, and they're proving it here tonight. Kind of a fun music selection as well.
Absolutely, and they're doing this can pick their songs while they perform on beam. Sometimes it just helps to calm their nerves down. Kind of fun for them.
Now up for the Aggies will be Bailey McIntyre on the floor. Bailey, the only all-arounder for Utah State tonight. She's had a good night aside from the fall that she took on the beam. But you know, a senior, strong gymnast, I'm sure she'll be able to bounce back.
Absolutely, Bailey has one of my favorite routines from floor. Definitely shows to the crowd. She plays with the crowd, interacts with the crowd, and the crowd loves her. Very nice double tuck. Slight chest down on that. I just really want to see you standing tall in those landings, but nothing to be concerned about. Another senior that will definitely be missed from her performances.
No question. She's so strong on every event that she does. It's a big hit for them to lose a senior like this, but a lot of good youth on this Utah State team as well.
Absolutely. Utah State has a lot of strong team members. Definitely won't be hurt. reeling somebody in from the crowd.
Always fun to see a little bit of crowd play like that.
Bailey definitely performs her routines and shows off. She has a great presence while she's on floor. Double pike. Getting a little bit of a chest down, but great routine by Bailey. Definitely be proud of that.
Just 2 gymnasts left for Southern Utah on the beam. Next up will be Cameron Baer. Cameron's coming off of a 9.875, so just another phenomenal score. The Southern Utah team is so strong in every aspect. It's really been a pleasure to watch them here. A few scores for Southern Utah on the beam. Kylie Bizzuto had a 9.875 and Stacy Webb a 9.725. So the high scores just keep on pouring in for the Thunderbirds.
This has been a very clean routine. Oh, front tuck. Just as I said that, hopefully I didn't jinx her.
It's the announcer's curse.
Oh, man. So that was a fall. That would be a 5/10 deduction. Luckily for SUU, they've had really good scores so far, and they're almost to the end of the meet, so hopefully they'll be able to drop that score.
Yeah, they're in a very good shape, even with that.
Very solid routine, except for that fall. It's a bummer that had to happen for them, but they'll be able to come through with that. They'll be okay.
Now coming up on the floor for the Aggies will be Ellie Gullison. Ellie has performed on the floor in every single meet this season for the Aggies. Again, just another consistent gymnast for the Aggies. 9.85 last week. She's got a fun routine to watch.
She has one of the hardest tumbling passes coming up right now. She'll do a round off back handspring double lay. Very nice done. That requires so much power, and Ellie definitely has the power to execute that. Straight into her second tumbling pass. Very well done. Ellie is definitely one of their powerhouses, and she's only a freshman, so she can only get better from here, and it's going to be exciting to see where her Utah State career takes her for the next 3 years, when she's already doing a very difficult front tumbling pass. See the gymnast back there cheering her on.
It's kind of cool to see Emily Briones over on the sideline. Emily was injured earlier this season, tore an ACL, and was out for the rest of the season. But it's cool to see that she's still able to participate a little bit with her team.
Absolutely. She's definitely a great support for this team, even though she's still hurt. Very nice. This has been such a strong routine for Ellie. One of the best I've seen her do so far. Very well done. Very strong routine.
Now closing out the rotation and the meet for Southern Utah will be Sydney Townsend on the balance beam.
Sydney did receive her season high last meet at 9.725.
Now this is just the third performance for her of the season on the beam. So a little bit less experience than most of the other girls that have gone for the Southern Utah. But, you know, and it's interesting to see them close out with a girl that doesn't have as much experience. But looks like she's doing a great job so far.
Very nice. That will count as a series, as a jump series, and then that back layout step out that landed on 1 foot. Very difficult. Going to give her a lot of bonus to get that score up to that 10 value. Here comes her series.
Now, while she doesn't have a ton of time on the beam this season, Sydney is a senior. So, you know, a little bit more experience than some of the girls. And it's definitely showing here.
Absolutely. She's been really calm on beam. Slight wobble there. She did have to add some element there because you do need a connecting leap pass. A little bit of a fun moonwalk there. Nice element. Now prepping for her dismount. Round off full.
A little bit of a fall there.
It was a fall.
But, you know, still a really good rotation for Southern Utah on the beam. Now,
Absolutely.
closing things out for Utah State on the floor is going to be Madison Ward. Madison just absolutely enough good things cannot be said about what she does on the floor for the Aggies. 6-time Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference Floor Specialist of the Week.
Absolutely. She's received 5 9.9s throughout this season. Huge job. Great tumbling pass right there.
Maddie's just a sophomore. I just can't even imagine the next couple of years of what she's going to bring for the Aggies on the floor.
Absolutely. She's hit so many records and has received so many awards this season. They're almost like infinite.
Currently, she is second of all time for the average floor score. And I don't know what this performance tonight will be able to do for that, but just, you know, putting her name all over the record books, like you said.
Absolutely. And you saw in that second tumbling pass how high she flies. She's a really powerful gymnast and graceful gymnast that she's able to get up in that high tumbling passes and show what she's got.
Not only does Maddie lead the Aggies, but she also is #1 in the Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference for regional qualifying score on the floor.
Again, so many awards, so many titles. She's just amazing. Last tumbling pass is a double pike. Again, huge routine, wonderful. I'm sure that's going to bring out another one of those high recording scores.
I think that the Aggies especially love to be able to finish out on the floor here at home because they just bring it every single week on the floor, and the added energy from the crowd, it's kind of cool to see.
For sure.
So we are going to have a exhibition, I believe, on the floor for Utah State. Michaela Bullitt.
Now we have seen Michaela Bullitt on floor, not in exhibition, but it looks like the coaches just wanted to give her a little bit of extra practice.
Yeah, Michaela actually, she's performed on the floor for Utah State all but 2 meets of this season. Last week she exhibitioned. I don't know if it's necessarily because of a dip in performance or just because there's some other girls have stepped up, but enough, you know, having so much depth on floor is never a bad thing for Utah State.
Absolutely, and she is just a freshman, so still has a long way to go and many times to prove to her coaches that she can do floor.
Looks like we're just waiting for scores to be tallied as Michaela gets ready to take the floor for her exhibition. Now, Utah State, you know, as we mentioned, it kind of became a competition against themselves here, but they have to feel strong about how they were able to finish on the floor after a tough rotation on the beam and being able to come out and do what they did.
Absolutely. Comes her first tumbling pass. Front tumbling pass. We could see a little bit more height in that, but she was able to land that landing really well. And something that you currently can't see right now that you are watching this, but I just wanted to point out the SUU's team has come over to watch Michaela finish out her routine. Something definitely graceful about SUU. Very supportive. Definitely to see them, love to see them supporting even though it's not their teammate.
Yeah, and you know, I called this a rivalry earlier, and I think it's more of a friendly, fun, in-state rivalry with a bunch of girls that know each other well and see each other 2 or 3 times a year.
Absolutely. Michaela did have a little struggle there on that second tumbling pass. It looked like she tried to whip that front tuck at the very end, but she was able to recover it. Just a little bit low there. Here for her last tumbling pass. Double pike, very nice. Definitely a fun routine that everyone in here is loving and cheering for, even though it's exhibition.
Really a nice routine, and that's what the exhibition is all about, being able to give the girls the confidence to come out and do this in a competition, and doing as well as she did right there. You know, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see her competing in the future.
Absolutely. I think she does have a future on floor, and it'd be interesting to see where she goes from here.
So we are just still just waiting for these final rotation scores to be tallied and for the final scores of the competition. But all around, just very, very good night from Southern Utah. They're an all-around team. They bring it every single week in and week out. And enough good things cannot be said about them and what they did tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, both teams did have a little bit of struggle there on beam. Overall, both teams did have to count a fall, which is unfortunate, but both teams really have had great showings tonight, with Utah State on bars especially and SUU on floor. Definitely going to be interesting to see what happens next Saturday at the Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference Championships.
Taking a peek at the final scores from this rotation, Southern Utah wound up with a 48.425 on the beam, while Utah State recorded a 49.025 on the floor. We're going to take another quick break and come back with the final results of tonight's meet and see the awards be given out. But for now, we'll be right back. And welcome back to Logan, Utah, here at the D. Glenn Smith Spectrum, where we're concluding tonight's meet between the Utah State Aggies and the Southern Utah Thunderbirds. Utah State tonight coming out with 3 really solid rotations and a really tough go on the beam. The thing that I think is both heartening and disheartening for the Aggies going forward is realizing that their 3 mistakes, you know, those 3 falls that they took, 2 of which they had to record, from having a very, very good meet tonight, you know, on the floor, on the beam, and on the bars. Pretty solid performances from Utah State. It's just a few small mistakes away from a good meet.
Absolutely. They recorded a huge score on bars for Utah State, and unfortunately those falls on beam are just took them over. It's unfortunate that had to happen because they are a lot stronger on beam, and they've proved that they're a lot stronger on beam too. But I think that they can overcome this and hopefully get over this mental block before the championships come up next week.
Now Southern Utah, also a great night. We're just getting ready to hear the final scores here.
On the ball, coming in first with a score of
Individual champions.
9.50 from SUU.
First place from Southern Utah. This is on the vault, Stacy Webb.
On bars, coming in first.
On bars,
score of 9.875.
a 9.875.
Is a 4-way tie from Utah State.
Looks like we have a 4-way tie between Maddie Ward of the Aggies,
From Utah State, Melanie Oster.
Melanie Oster of Utah State,
From Utah State, Brittany Jepson.
Brittany Jepson of Utah State,
And from SUU, Tylee Buzuto.
and Tylee Bizzuto of Southern Utah.
On beam, coming in first with a score of 9.875. A
On
two-way
beam,
tie from Southern
we have a
Utah.
2-way tie from Southern Utah,
Also
Kirsten
from
Yee
Utah, Tylee Buzuto.
and Tylee Bizzuto, co-champions.
On floor, coming in first with a score of 9.875.
On floor,
A 3-way tie from Southern Utah.
we have a
Madison
3-way tie.
From Southern Utah, Autumn Jorgensen.
Looks like Madison Blake Howard and Autumn Jorgensen of Southern Utah.
State, Madison
And
Ward.
from Utah State, Madison Ward.
Before the final team scores are announced, we will announce the winner of tonight's all-around. Tonight's all-around champion with a score of 39.
Tonight's all-around champion of just two competitors, being Bailey McIntyre and Tylee Bizzuto. Tylee Bizzuto with a score of 39.375. Just very, very good all-around night for her.
Gymnastics, we would like to announce tonight's winner of the Pepsi's Rock Star of the Week. Congratulations to Maddie Ward, the outstanding gymnast of
Looks
tonight.
like the outstanding gymnast, the rock star of the meet, goes to Utah State's Maddie Ward. I'm sure she's got a few of those by now.
Two scores, placing second tonight with a score of
In second place tonight, Utah State coming in with a score of 194.6. The winner tonight, Southern Utah with a score of 195.675. Southern Utah coming away with the victory. Of course, by their standards, this is an average score. I'm sure that they were hoping for a little bit higher, but you can't be mad about winning the event, winning the meet, and coming out with a score like that. Utah State, as we mentioned, just so close to having a solid meet. The beam really killed them, but worth mentioning on the bars, Utah State had their 7th highest bar score in team history, and very solid on the bar, on the vault, and on the floor as well. So maybe they can take a little bit of piece from that moving forward as they prepare for the Mountain Range Gymnastics Conference Championship next week.
Absolutely. Both teams with a sort of a low score for both of them, actually, but with it being the 7th highest team bar score in history, that is huge. Definitely hoping to repeat that in the next week. Huge bar scores coming out from Utah State all season, actually, especially from Jasmine Estrella and Carrie Peel. Huge scores coming out from them.
Just looking forward at what we have from each of these teams. Utah State, they get the week off. I mean, of course, they'll be in the gym and practicing, but this is their final regular season competition. And so they're going to have a week here at home before they host the Mountain Range Gymnastics Conference Championship next Saturday. So full 8 days off. That'll be nice for them. And really a special treat for Utah State, for these fans to be able to be the host of the championship this year rather than going on the road. Southern Utah, meanwhile, they're going to hit the road. I guess it's not really hitting the road, where they're down in Cedar City, and between here and there is BYU. They're going to play against BYU on Monday night. And then next Saturday they'll be back up here for the Mountain Range Gymnastics Conference Championship. I'm really excited to see that. These two teams very evenly matched most of the time. It's going to be fun to see them go against each other again, see Boise State get in here, see BYU come in here. Just a solid conference, becoming one of the best in the country, and I'm excited to see that.
Absolutely. We've seen all of these teams here at Utah State before. Definitely going to be fun to see all teams here all together.
Anyway, it's been a fun meet. On behalf of my broadcast partner,
Courtney McGill,
I'm Jaden Johnson, and we are going to say goodnight to you from Utah State, where the final score tonight, Southern Utah with a 195.675 and Utah State with a 194.6. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and have a great night. As always, go Aggies.